Hi, I'm Tom Bradford. An EU Settlement Scheme Family Permit or an EEA Family Permit, which is best for you? And who can you bring in amongst your family members on these types of permits? Well, we're going to have a look at that and I'm going to explain it in detail using this infographic. So let's get into it. Now, the starting point is the eligibility for the EUSS Family Permit. That's where I'm going to start. So at the moment there are two schemes running in parallel, the EU Settlement Scheme Family Permit and the EEA Family Permit. The one that you apply for will depend on the circumstances surrounding your application. So who can apply for the EUSS Family Permit? Well, it's for close family members of an EEA or Swiss national where that national has settled or pre-settled status under the EU settlement scheme. A close family member is defined in the following way: as the spouse or civil partner of the relevant EEA citizen, as the durable partner of the relevant EEA citizen, as the child or dependent parent, or the child or dependent parent of the spouse or civil partner. So that means that you're looking at this sort of structure. So there's you here. Of course, in terms of gender, it could be vice versa, and purely for this example, your wife, and then you have your dependent parents, and then the definition, in fact, of parents includes grandparents who are also potentially eligible, and then in terms of children, children under the age of 21, and then dependent children. So I'm going to go through all of the definitions here. So who can apply, first of all, for an EEA family permit? Well, you've got to be the close or extended family member of an EEA or Swiss national, and that's where the difference is. So the casework guidance for the EEA family permit states there's no limit on the distance of the relationship between the EEA national and the extended family member, as long as they can provide proof of the relationship between them. However, from the 1st of February 2017, the rights of extended family members only applies to relatives of the EEA nationals and not to relatives of the EEA national spouse or civil partner. I've given the case law to support that. So those family members who may apply under an EEA family permit are set out in the EEA regulations: the spouse or civil partner of the relevant EEA national, the direct descendants of them or of their spouse who are either under 21 or dependents, and the dependent direct relatives of them, or the ascending line of their spouse or civil partner, or a dependent extended family member of the relevant EEA national. So what's the difference between the EEA Family Permit and the EUSS Family Permit? Well, under the EUSS Family Permit, for dependent parents or indeed grandparents of the relevant EEA citizen or their spouse, dependency is presumed without the need for evidence, and I'll show you the basis and the rules for that. So this applies only where the EEA citizen is over 18 at the time of the application, and evidence of dependency will still be required for a child over 21. So this is different from the EEA Family Permit, where documentary evidence of dependence would be required for both categories. And there's no difference in terms of the rights of EEA family members across the two routes, as I say, in terms of their rights, but there's a difference in terms of scope. So I just want to look at two examples. So one is for, if you were bringing your mother-in-law to the UK under these routes, and the other one is your sister-in-law, and to look at the difference between them. So can a mother-in-law apply under either route? So a mother-in-law can apply under both routes. So as the dependent parent of the relevant EEA citizen spouse or civil partner under the EU settlement scheme, or as a dependent direct relative of the EEA citizen spouse or civil partner on an EEA family permit. So it may be preferable, though, for the mother to apply under the EU EUSS, as dependency will be presumed without the need for evidence, assuming that, as an EEA citizen, you're over the age of 18. So that, as I say, is in the example of your mother-in-law. So that is possible. But what about the example that I've put here in this diagram of the sister-in-law? Well, the sister-in-law could not apply under either route unless, for an EEA family permit, she had, prior to the 1st of February 2017, been issued with an EEA family permit or registration certificate or residence card, and since then had been continuously resident in the United Kingdom. So there's special circumstances there, but otherwise that would not be possible. So just to go back to the EU settlement scheme, which in most cases is going to be preferable, okay, I'll just go to the eligibility first. So in terms of eligibility, what are the eligibility criteria for the EUSS Family Permit? Well, first of all, you've got to be a non-EEA citizen. As an applicant, you've got to be the family member of a relevant EEA citizen. You've got to be travelling. I'll go into the definition of that in a minute. The relevant EEA citizen is resident in the UK or will be travelling to the UK within 6 months of the date of the application. And then you as an applicant will be accompanying the relevant EEA citizen to the UK or joining them in the UK. And as an applicant, you're not the spouse, civil partner or durable partner of a relevant EEA citizen where they've been granted entry clearance under this under the appendix. So there's an important exception there that I think I'm going to deal with in a separate video. But in terms of explaining the what a family member of a relevant EEA citizen is, so it's a person who's satisfied the entry clearance officer that they are the spouse or civil partner, or, which I've highlighted at the bottom here, the child or dependent parent of the spouse or civil partner of the relevant EEA citizen. So if we go into what that means, so child or dependent parent. So in terms of child, this does cover a direct descendant of yours under the age of 21 years, or of your spouse, or it covers the direct descendant age 21 years or over if they are dependent on the relevant EEA citizen or their spouse or civil partner. So this covers the two types of children, if I can put it that way, and as I've set out in this diagram. Now, when looking at dependency, how do you prove dependency of your child that's aged 21 years or over? Or dependency here means that having regard to their financial and social conditions or health, the applicant, so they, in other words, the child, cannot meet their essential living needs without financial or material support of you as the relevant EEA citizen, or of their spouse, or of your spouse or civil partner. So they can't meet their essential living needs, and the support is being provided by you or your spouse, and this is important, there's no need to determine the reasons for the dependence or for the recourse to that support. Which means that you could start sending them money, for example, and establish a dependency. They won't look behind the reasons for dependency. So that's children. And when we come to dependent parents, so the dependent parent is defined as the direct relative in the ascending line of a relevant EEA citizen, so of you in this case, or of your spouse or civil partner. In addition, direct relative in the ascending line includes a grandparent or great-grandparent, which is why I've included the grandparents in this diagram here, and the dependents of the direct relative in the ascending line on you, as long as you're not under the age of 18, or on your spouse, is assumed. So this is a very important difference from the EEA Family Permit, where it's not assumed and it's got to be proven. So preferably, if you're looking to bring your dependent parent into the UK and you're an EEA citizen, then you should, then it will be preferable in most cases to go down the EUSS Family Permit route if that's possible for you and if you meet the eligibility criteria. So I hope that's helpful, and I'll be producing some more detailed videos on the eligibility criteria and so forth, and other examples of relatives. I've just dealt with mother-in-laws here and sister-in-laws for illustration purposes, but I'll go into more detail on specific types of relatives in future videos and live streams. Thanks so much. Bye for now.